Well, I used to work with journalism in a newspaper in Curitiba, my hometown, where there was a very specific situation about this paper, is that we could tell stories. We had space, pages, days to prepare the story. And I do believe that's very specific in journalism. Journalism in general don't tell stories, they do other things. So we could tell stories about local characters, and we had the time to do it. And it was I spent a year working with this paper, and it was the greatest experience I've had with journalism. And knowing that I like to tell stories, a colleague of mine who's 8 years old and considers himself a dinosaur of journalism, he came to me someday in a very dramatic mood and told me, Rafael, I remembered the story of this lady, and it's so incredible. I've been to her house. She has this collection, this fossil collection. She's got dinosaur eggs in her living room. She's got mammoth skin, a collection of gems. You should really go after her. And that's what I did. And that same week, I went to her house, and I arrived there at 7 p.m. that evening, and we stayed up to 4 in the morning talking about her life. It really impressed me that beyond that collection, herself, her presence was much more interesting. So it's not usual to go into a living room that has a dinosaur egg's nest, but she was even more impressive. And at that point in my life, I had decided to stop making films, because when I looked at them, the 3 films that I had made so far, they didn't really interested me. So I decided at some point that if I were to make a film again, it was to be about this woman, and I decided to do it thoroughly. So if I were to film again, I had to do a film up to the end. So I spent 2 years in the making of this film, and it had ended up being a film not about the fossil collection, but about the love story of the couple who built this biggest fossil collection in Latin America, which is in their living room. Well, in the making of OVOS de DINOSSAURO na SALA de ESTAR, as I was in a personal crisis with cinema, like I would ask myself, does it make sense to make cinema? I started at the same point. I was researching on the character's story. I would meet her and really try to get to know what was her personal story and what were her most important questions and issues on life and everything. I was somehow meditating about cinema's history, more specifically documentary cinema's history, but also cinema in general. So I rewatched some films I truly love. So I started watching films like Flaherty's first films, Rouge, Mazo Brothers, Wiseman, classical documentary filmmakers, up to filmmakers of today, Wang Bing, Pedro Costas, and many others, including Brazilian authors that I like. But at the same time, I wasn't differentiating. Now today I'll watch a documentary and tomorrow I'll watch a fiction. And so I was obviously also watching fiction films. So Brackage's, Godard's, Claire Denis, Eugène Green's films. Because this differentiation on fiction and documentary is something that we somehow do it. And for me, it didn't make sense to make a film that was not constructed. Like the first film we understand as a documentary, one of Flaherty's, I don't know, Moana's was the first that was called a documentary. All of his films are very well constructed. So it only made sense to me to make a film that was thoroughly constructed. And that's somehow what I did with the film. When you look at the characters, Atraginildes herself has something to do with Brecht, because she has a very own style of acting. I kind of directed her. We had takes. We filmed as if it were a fiction. The process of filming was with takes. There was a script. She would rehearse. We didn't mean to rehearse thoroughly, because we didn't mean nothing in the film looks natural. The lighting is very constructed. I don't know. One of the references was Mario Bava's films. So we had references from all around, and I can tell you that I've imagined 10 films, 10 different ways of making this film. At some point I thought of having projections made straight on her, but things started to get clearer and clearer. Somehow the pictures are fossilized because we really thought times and times about them. So let's do like this. This has to be here. No, this has not to be here. The clothes will gonna be this one with this picture. Yeah, and yes, when we think about her acting style, because her husband used to film her. There are like I had like 35 hours of archival footage to use in the film, so that was a lot. One of the scenes was very beautiful, and one of that I most like and was most hard to let go. She was in a hotel room in Rome, and her Guido, the husband, is filming, and then he opens the window. She opens the window, the camera goes with her hand, and it's like this. She opens the window and say, "With you, the Fontana di Trevi," and then the camera goes out and films it. It's a very beautiful scene, so it was very hard to let go. But at the same point, she was also the main character of these home films. So she had her own acting style. And at times I believe that had Antonioni filmed her, she might have been a cinema diva, a cinema goddess, because she's really beautiful and she has this port. And answering directly the question, yes, I think breath has a lot to do with her.